Hey everybody, John here, obviously. And I'm going to tell you a little story, not for the story itself, but because the story is what informed my thoughts for this video. I watched a video of a woman in, I think, Milwaukee, in one of the US states. And it was videoed by a bystander, and it was a woman who had been, I presume, arguing with her boyfriend, and he had either thrown her out of the house or she had left the house, and he had locked the door behind her, locking himself inside and locking her outside. And she was in a rage and had been arguing with him and wanted to continue arguing. And so she's walking around the outside of this house, shouting at the house, trying to get this guy to re-engage with the fight that she's having with him, which clearly he doesn't want to do. And so she begins breaking the windows at the ground floor of this house, and she finds something she can stand on and sticks her head into one of the broken windows, and she's yelling and screaming and carrying on, and she rips some of the drapes out of the window and then walks away over to a nearby garage and gets a can of gasoline and pours it in the window of the house. Now, while this is going on, there are bystanders, there are people watching, and you can hear them, jeering and laughing, because to them this is one of the funniest things they've seen. And when she comes with the gas can, they really think that's funny. You can listen to it on the video, and I said I wasn't going to link to it. I'll put a link in the low bar. So what she does is she stands on a box or something, sticks her head in the window of this house, pours gasoline into the house, and then ignites it, lights the place on fire. Now, within about 15 seconds of her lighting this place on fire, another window opens, and a teenage girl, who I guess is about 16, jumps out of one of the windows and runs away. Well, as you would, if you are 16 and fast enough on your feet that you can outrun a building fire. So, you think, well, clearly this is a big enough place that there's going to be more than just one person inside, other than her boyfriend, who she's trying to get to come out with. A teenage girl escapes being burned to death, and the boyfriend who's inside evidently does not escape being burned to death. He dies, so she murdered him. And the point of this discussion isn't to vilify her. I mean, clearly she's a crazy person. Or is she? Or is she? Because what I find most interesting is not her behavior, but the reaction of the crowd filming this thing. Because somebody obviously filmed this on their cell phone or on some kind of a camera. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. And you can hear in the recording other people laughing and giggling and, jeering. To them, this is really, really funny. This is a woman who is out of control, smashing the windows of the house, screaming and carrying on like a mad person, and eventually coming over with a gasoline can, pouring it in the building and lighting it on fire and murdering a person, and nobody stops her. Now, once the building is burning, like really burning, a few people snap into enough awareness that they try to break down the door to get whoever else is in this house out of the place. But by then it's too late, and the guy dies, right? He's murdered by being burned alive. Not a very good way to go. I'm not laughing because I think that's funny. The whole thing is absurd. The point I want to make is nobody stops this woman when she's walking back to the house with a can of gasoline with clear intention. Nobody stops her. This is all funny and amusing. And it is my point of view that this group of people in this video, like many others that we've seen online, is a group on whom the grip of civilization has grown arthritic and weak. Now, I want to be clear that this is not a black and white thing. This is not a thing about them being black. I don't think that's actually material to this discussion. This is a group of people who have been propagandized and enculturated. They have been acted on by academics and politicians and activists and media people and social engineers with the explicit and purposeful intent to sand away or grind away or melt away from them the candy coating of the M&M that is civilization, and leaving only the malevolent and crazy inside. And all of us we think of ourselves as civilized people, we are monkeys. We are modern hairless apes, all of us. I'm a chimpanzee and so are you. And we are chimpanzees with a very big brain and manipulative digits that we can use all kinds of complex tools and communication skills that we can cooperate with each other. And the fact that we are not daily walking murder and mayhem machines is because there is a thin candy shiny coating of civilization on us. It's taken us about 10,000 years as a species to develop this candy coating, but it's very, very, very thin. And what is underneath it is endless murder and mayhem. Very bad stuff. Now, the social justice projects, multiple, and I mean the Black Lives Matter, university communists, university Marxists, feminists, radfems, trans activists, all of these different flavors of social justice all have an overlapping goal. And that is, roughly speaking, to dissolve away that candy coating of civilization from all of us, to destroy civilization. And that sounds like I'm being very over dramatic. You think about 15, 20 years ago, feminists constantly used to use a graphic of a kind of a cartoon drawing of timber framing with the word "the patriarchy" written on it, and some kind of intrepid feminist woman with a headscarf and a sledgehammer saying, "I'm going to smash the patriarchy," referring to it as some kind of a structure. And if you were opposed to feminism 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you probably viewed that visual rhetoric from the feminist project as, "I want to smash men," the patriarchy. We used to think that what they meant was, we want to take a sledgehammer to men. And I would say they do, but that's not what they meant. To them, the patriarchy is Western civilization. And I do mean all of it. All of it. Like the social convention that we as grown-up adults, capable, full of muscles and with lots of tools, capabilities, can have intense disagreement over topics of very high value to us and come away from those discussions still disagreeing, but with our arms around each other, and go have a coffee or a beer or a plate of baklava. That is part of Western civilization, and that is under attack. They want to get rid of that. The ability to resolve deadly grievances through a formalized process that we call the courts, and then have those resolutions be binding both legally and socially. That we first go to the courts, and that after we come from the courts, those are binding resolutions. They want to do away with that. Your ability to walk down the street with money in your pocket, or quite a sophisticated computer, and not be murdered to have your valuables taken from you in every major city, that's part of Western civilization. They want to do away with that. They want to do, and I could go on and on and on at length, and we'd all get really bored if I just kept itemizing all the things that are part of Western civilization. But I'm telling you, all of them are the patriarchy, and all of them are to be done away with the sledgehammer, break it down into gravel, to sand. Dissolve that candy coating of civilization until what's left underneath is only the malevolent, the crazy, the impulse without control on it, the appetite, the lust, the rage, the anger, the greed, the murderous intention. And if you want just a sliver of a sample of what that might look like, think about the Chads, that so-called street party, which immediately turned murderous. The protection force that they established for themselves began murdering people rather indiscriminately. A young woman in the United States who, 20 years old, white chick, in response to a Black Lives Matter event, said that all lives matter, and was promptly murdered for her troubles. And then when her family set up a Facebook memorial thing, a whole bunch of the Black Lives Matter activists went in and began taunting her family and saying, oh, the world is safer now that a 20-year-old little white girl has been murdered for saying all lives matter. Yeah, the world is safer now. It's a pretty novel definition of the word safe. Well, all of these are part of the social justice project. And that project is to dissolve the candy coating of civilization, which is thin. I tell you, it is thin. And leave the malevolent, the crazy, the murderous, the appetite-driven impulses of the human race, with all of our intelligence for creating trouble, and our hands, and our cooperation and our communications. We are a species of murder machines, and the only thing that makes us not that is that thin candy coating. It is the project of social justice in all its forms to dissolve that candy coating. Now, they imagine, the social justice types, that what they're going to create in place of civilization is their own little perfect utopia. But if you think that's going to happen, I have bad news for you. Think about the Chaz, or the Chop, or whatever the fuck it was called. That was a mini micro sample of the carnage and murder state that the social justice warriors are working their little fingers to the bones to enact as they tear down our civilization. And you should properly, if you are somebody who still has your candy coating, treat those people with the appropriate treatment of someone who wants to raise everything to the ground and create a society of total chaos, murder, and privation. No modern literature or movie or artistic representation of the state of chaos and murder and dystopia can possibly encompass what is going to happen if the social justice project gets its way. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and as always, have a lovely, lovely day.